Sometimes we import geometry into Unreal Engine that has not been properly optimized. At times, it can be difficult to ascertain what the exact issue is or how it is impacting performance. In this module, we'll learn about some of the common 3D model issues that you may encounter and how to resolve those issues. Broadly speaking, if we put more time and care into preparing our models and applying detail in our 3D modeling program, we'll have greater performance and visual quality as we move forward in Unreal Engine. If you create a 3D model in your 3D modeling program and you don't create a UV map to use for materials, you may notice that textures applied to the model may be rotated, scaled, or have visible seams. Notice how the materials on these walls are noticeably misaligned. I did not create a UV map for these objects. The UVs for these were automatically generated. I brought this chair into 3ds Max and subdivided it several times to make it much more high poly than it needs to be. I then duplicated the chair so we have several low and high poly chairs in the scene, low poly on the left and high poly on the right. Notice how the low poly versions look nearly identical, but my frame rate noticeably decreases when the high poly version is in the viewport. You can see your frame rate in the viewport by typing ~stat FPS. If you're not sure if your models are too high poly, you can also use the Quad Overdraw Debug View mode by selecting Lit in the viewport, Optimization View Modes, Quad Overdraw. Here, you can see different colors indicating the complexity of different areas of your view. We can clearly see here that these high poly chairs are way too expensive for our scene. Additionally, you can see a breakdown of all the geometry statistics in your scene by going to Window, Statistics, and look in the Primitive Stats tab here. Here, we can see the high poly chair made up of a million triangles. We can also see that this file is taking up much more space. If our project is using too many high poly models when we don't need to be, we might have lower frame rate, or some models might not even render during gameplay. As a general rule, try to model your geometry using as few polygons as possible while not sacrificing the overall quality. Additional detail can be baked into the material of an object using texture maps. You can also create LODs or levels of detail for your model in the Static Mesh editor. Sometimes, geometry appears to have incorrect smoothing where faces are oriented the wrong direction. When the normals of a polygon are incorrect, it can appear that smoothing is happening in a manner that is inconsistent with the surface of the geometry. If you have any inconsistencies with smoothing or normals, be sure to remedy those issues in your 3D modeling program before importing into Unreal Engine, as those issues will only become more apparent when you add lighting and reflections. In 3ds Max, you can edit your normals by simply adding an Edit Normals modifier and changing these parameters. In a 3D modeling program, you can add material channels to an object to determine which faces of an object should have which materials. In 3ds Max, for example, you can specify material channels by applying a multi-sub-object material to a model, then specifying material IDs on various faces. Be sure to specify these on your models before you import them into your Unreal Engine project. Also, be wary of large architecture models that have dozens of material channels that don't really need to be there. This can negatively affect performance of your project. Now that we've learned about how we want our content to be created for Unreal Engine, let's look at how we can model assets with regards to polygon count restrictions in our 3D modeling program, 3ds Max.